So hello to Bushra Khalidi, the policy leader, Oxfam for the Palestinian occupied territories. Bushra, thank you so much indeed. When was the last time you had staff able to get to northern Gaza, or are you doing everything via third parties?
Now the strip has been split into different areas. So when we talk about the North Gaza Governorate, we haven't been able to enter anybody since the 6th of October, and when Israel declared the siege on the North Gaza Governorate, which includes Beit Lahia, Beit Hanun, and Jabalia areas. We were able to finally get into Gaza City this week, but we have not been able to enter the North Gaza Governorate that has been besieged for the last 2.5 months, and ultimately, effectively, ethnically cleansed from the population there. We have no oversight of what's happening, but what we were able to see is that only 12 trucks of food and water in 2.5 months have entered. And this is not aid. This is real cruelty. When those supplies do make it, they've been at times followed by shelling and destruction, as you mentioned, of the very places people are sheltering.
The Israeli military is clearly denying, and many organizations have said it. Humanitarian organizations have conducted their own analysis. They've spoken to people who are living in northern Gaza and using food and water as weapons of war. How long before we see people dying of starvation? Malnutrition is already everywhere, of course.
People are absolutely already dying of starvation. We know that. The problem is that either people are unable to make it to the hospitals, so the records are not showing those numbers, because in order to get to a hospital, you have to walk, or you need transport, and there's very little transportation system in Gaza at the moment because of the widespread destruction. But we know that people have died of starvation. We just are unable to assess the real situation and how bad and terrible it is. The entire Gaza Strip is facing acute malnutrition, and we know that there are already pockets of famine existing across the entire strip, especially in the North Gaza Governorate, where we've seen very, very little aid enter. I have my family in the south of Gaza at the moment. My brother-in-law was literally telling me that they're telling the children to stop playing because they're skipping meals and they're not eating properly, so that they don't get dizzy and don't get out of energy very quickly. They're asking the children not to play. And imagine, already you've been stripped from your childhood in Gaza. Being a child in Gaza is a death trap. It's a death sentence right now. And to be also asked to not play, I mean, what kind of nightmare is this that we're inflicting on children in Gaza, who form half of the population of the Strip?
Bushra, who eventually makes the final decision about whether an aid truck should move towards the north? Is it the Israelis who deny the permission for any sort of entry into the Strip at all? Or do they say to organizations like yours, look, you could go, but we can't guarantee your security? How does that work exactly?
It's both, but the point is, and what's really important to note, is Israel is the occupying power. It occupies Gaza, and under international law, when you occupy a civilian population, you have a legal obligation to provide for that population, to protect that population. Therefore, Israel has an obligation under international law to protect the Palestinian civilian population in Gaza. What we're witnessing on the ground is completely the opposite. If anything, they have done everything to systematically destroy the fabric of society in Gaza at every single level. So it's not enough for Gaza to say, oh, here's one opening that is open from this time to this time. You can enter your trucks at your own risk. It is up to Israel to make sure that the situation on the ground is safe and also ensures that the humanitarian sector can also safely travel with their trucks and that they will not be targeted. We've not received any of those guarantees or any of that protection from Israel. If anything, what we've witnessed is the complete opposite.
Is it possible to bypass any Israeli orders about what you're allowed to do or not? Or is that beyond the capacity of Oxfam?
The crossings.
Yes, the thing
Israel
is, Bushra
controls all of the crossings inside Gaza. So there's no way for us to actually physically enter a truck through a crossing without an Israeli checkpoint. There are also Israeli checkpoints across the inside of Gaza. So it's not just at the border. It's also inside Gaza, where trucks have been refused. For example, those traveling from the south to the north. Many of these convoys have been systematically denied by Israeli authorities, even when they've reached the checkpoint to cross, they have also been returned to go back south.
Is it possible maybe then for countries to become involved again, to bypass those Israeli orders that you obviously can't? But countries have air forces. They could. They tried, didn't they? Why didn't it work? They tried to airdrop supplies because they realized the Israelis were stopping everything from entering.
Airdropping supplies in a strip like Gaza, where it's overcrowded, is not a solution. And we have seen that because airdrops have killed people in the course of the last 14 months. That is not a solution. The solution is simple. It's abiding by international law. And third states also have obligations under international law to protect the civilian population in Gaza, including the rest of the Palestinian territory. The ICJ deemed the occupation of the Palestinian territory unlawful over the summer. And there are measures that countries should be taking in order to implement this ICJ decision and to ensure that and enforce that Israel abides by its international obligation. These can be economic restrictive measures. These can be stopping, for example, the sale of weapons. Have we seen any genuine commitment from Israel's allies to halt the transfer of lethal weapons that are right now killing children in Gaza? I have not seen any meaningful action from the international community. Dropping aid in airplanes is not the solution. Humanitarian solutions is not what we're looking for. We need a political solution. We're not the solution to this problem. We can support, we can help, we can complement, we can fill some gaps, but it is not the responsibility of the humanitarian response to respond to a political issue right now. The root causes must be addressed by the international community, yet they choose to continue to look away, especially at Christmas. Now people in Palestine should be celebrating Christmas. This is a festive time usually for us. It's a second Christmas that we, have to mourn our families and our friends and our colleagues in Gaza instead.
Bushra Khalidi, thank you so much indeed. We appreciate the words, the analysis, and your personal experience of what Oxfam is doing to help the people of Gaza. Take care.